I think we're back live, coming at you with part 3 of trying to solve this excellent puzzle from 2003, No Turning Back by Arc. I think where we got to in part 2 was we had a completed grid fill. We worked out that we actually have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6 appearing in cells in the grid, and the cells are such that they can be, I suppose, they're central cells in a dice net, and by dice net, if you can see the shape that I've highlighted there in green, that's something that can be cut out and folded up into a dice, or into a die, I should say, which seems to be what this section here of the instructions indicate. I'm not... I think where I left it off last time, I was having a look at some of these extra letters or words which were given by a number of the clues, and I think we worked out that we could make the word tesseract out of them. Tessera being a word meaning small pieces from which a mosaic is made. Tesserule meaning cubic or isometric, and I think tesseract being a figure of a cube within a cube. So that's somehow cubic related, which would relate to something being a dice or the need to make a dice, but we would still have some extra letters left over. So those were the letters which we get from letters which are ignored within the wordplay of certain clues. We've highlighted those in blue. We've done this part of the puzzle, which is taking 2 consecutive letters from 23 other clues and working out what messages they spell, and that gives us the scissors glued twice off cut, which completes this message here. And we sort of had a crack at this part of the clue, which is some of the clue numbers that have both a normal clue and a conventional grid entry confirms the number of squares to be submitted in the solution. And on one possible view of things, that comes to 115 squares in the remaining solution, or the off-cut. It's only the off-cut that has to be submitted. But I'm not entirely sure... Excuse me. Not entirely sure that we are correct about that. I'll tell you why. Excuse me. I'll tell you why in a moment. But hi, Shark. I was waiting for you to jump on board, and the reason I was waiting for Shark to jump on board is because I received a message from Shark saying that he has managed to resolve some of the things that I was unsure about, or we were unsure about last time. So I think there are at least 3 clues where we haven't quite passed the wordplay. And this is one of those puzzles where we really do need to be able to pass the wordplay on all of the clues, particularly so we can work out this last part of the preamble's instructions, which is the sum of the clue numbers that have both a normal clue and a conventional grid entry, confirm the number of squares to be submitted as part of the solution. So, Shark, I'm just going to go through the list of things that you've picked up in the order that you've set them to me in. So I think the first one is we're looking at 45 down. Now, you previously spotted scrays as an answer to this being, the word means seabirds or tern. It's the same as terns, T-E-R-N, which is an aquatic bird, and of course scrays is another word for that. but we weren't quite sure how to pass it. But what you have stumbled on is that the clue tells us that we take a word for scale and we replace AL with ray, and then we add an S on the end. So scale would mean, so definition being seabird, scale would mean flight. Fish is a ray, so we put fish in instead of A and long. Of course, the GE is extra. Instead of A, long. So long is being used for L. Before sun appears, is, I suppose, just a very wordy way of adding an S on the end, and I think that does give us scrays. So I'm pleased with that, which would confirm. Sorry, one moment. Let me get that in. I need to go back to this layer, I think. Back to that layer, maybe we can. Actually, I'm going to get rid of this green dice net. I can hide that there. There we go. Blue scrays. So we can make that entry permanent now. Wait a second. My screen's not sharing. Let me just make sure I'm sharing the screen here. Why is that not working? Let's get that connected. All right. There we go. If connection lost, trying to reconnect. Let's try again. So it looks like it's a fiddly connection this morning. Unfortunately, I wonder if there's a way I can fix that. It's probably not the battery life. You can see the new grid now. I think it might have popped up for a moment, but then it might have, even though it disappeared, it might have disappeared, or the connection, I think, broke on my end, but it might have still appeared or showed. So, okay, so we're connected again now. I might just need to keep an eye on that to make sure that it stays on the screen. All right. So we've got scrays there. We've made that entry permanent. So that's the first clue that Shark has worked out. 23 down. Oh, sorry, 1 second. We can now make all of this red. We have fully passed that clue. We don't need to worry about that anymore. 23 down is, tat. So Norse called AS keeps in, so around touch, which means tat with Old Norse ON, which is a word meaning with feeling. I think it's actually a French word for gropingly. At least that's how it's defined in Chambers. I don't think we've properly passed 27 down yet, but we know it's not going to be a normal clue because we are missing AD from the entry, and I'm fairly sure that it's going to be tiny and not Tina, which is what we originally thought it was, because otherwise it doesn't match up with the 4x2, which we have going from 39 across. Not to be confused, I suppose, with a 2x4. The next thing Shark picked up was 26 across. Now, in the centre of the grid here, we've got the answer 5 stones, but I had both the 5 and the S as extra words. Now 5 stones are jacks or stones in a children's game of dib or dibs, I think it's called. I'm not familiar with the game, but what Shark has picked up is that, I mean, this is very subtly clued. I mean, I'd thought that the definition was jacks in game, but it's not. It's just going to be jacks. And of course, finally losers gives S and temper gives tone. But 5 is apparently a game. So let me have a look at this. Where do we get that 5 is a game? The age of 5 years, score of 5 points, a set of 5 things. Am I reading that clue correctly? Oh, 5s is a game. Yeah, 5s is a ball game similar to squash. So what do we have there? So that would give us wordplay, which is fives. Then we have finally losers plus S and temper plus tone. I do like that. Because I don't like that 5 being extra, or an unclude word. But how do we get the S at the end? Or what's going on with this additional S here? Can we get... Oh, it could be actually in game we have finally losers stone. So we then have stone inside 5s. Yeah, so the S is an extra as well. So we have 5s around. That is so subtly clued. That is so devious. Now what that would mean is none of that is additional at all. We have a completely normal... Actually, no, we don't have a normal clue. We have a conventional clue, but the entry is not conventional because we have additional... We have extra letters in 2 of the cells. And of course, that's significant because... I mean, the only hint we have... Well, there are only 2 hints we have in this preamble that there are... some of the grid entries might not be conventional is the reference to the fact that we can identify clues where the grid entries are conventional, and this tiny little subtle indication here that numbers in the brackets refer to links of entries, which is of course a sneaky way of indicating that there is something funny going on with our entries. So that helps in a major way because we can get rid of 5 from our 5 and S from our list of extra letters here, which I think also means that we can no longer make tessera or tesseract, which I like so much because it's a word that means cube. We might have had difficulty making it because we didn't have an R either, but okay, maybe I was just barking up the wrong tree there. Okay, which one did we have next from Shark? I think Shark has some thoughts about whether or not 5 down is a normal clue. Let's go back to 5 down. Is 5 down a normal clue? 5 down is a normal clue. Not sure why I've indicated that as extra. Yeah, container lies below surface swimming pool. Everything is clued by that, so that means that up here in our list of clues. We can add a 5. So that's the end of this idea that. So we're potentially looking at 108 or 120. And I'm told as well that I think we only have 2 more to pass now. We don't need to worry about 27 down, but 12 down. I mean, H's. A board game in which one must take out 7 letters. So, right, Shark's just posted in the grid that there could well be a way that we could get Tiny from 27 down. He says, just looking at Tiny, could it be Tina to my atom? Tina to my atom, which is Tiny. There is there is no alternative can be abbreviated Tina. Then we have to my, which we can do. Not showing such. Not showing such. Oh, it is. That is sneaky. That is very sneaky. Not showing such an object. Such a tiny object is an atom. So the definition is in fact just the word such in there, which is, well, that's a devilish clue. That's got to be the way it's passed. Has to be the way it's passed. It's a devilish clue, and it's a little bit. It's like one step beyond those, I suppose, composite anagrams, which. I mean, once you learn about what a composite anagram is, and you see one, you spot it everywhere. Actually, a very easy spot. But usually, if you have something like this in the centre of a clue and an anagram indicator, it's like an indication that you need to some fodder and the answer might anagram to give something that isn't the answer but is given by the wordplay of the clue. So I suppose when one sees a word like such or this in the centre of a clue, it's a good indication of some sort of deviousness afoot. Afoot. Sherlock Holmes is not a game is afoot. Yeah, digress. 12 down. So we had H's here, and of course that fits with the entry. Definition would be letters, and the idea that we had, which is that we had a board game, or which would give the first letter A. It doesn't give IT, but board game in which one must take out 7. We thought was, in the way we're passing at this moment, we have A plus chess without an S on the end, because S is an indicator of 7 in medieval Roman numerals, but that seems very unsatisfactory because we can't get the IT that we need here for H's, and looking at the crossing entries, paganising three-pit, or threpit, the I and the T do not seem to be unindicated letters in those clues, so it's unlikely it's going to be an unindicated letter in this clue. And I'm told that Shark has the answer to it. A equals it. So in fact, the A is extra. We came across this in Saber's clue. Saber's puzzle, the previous puzzle. A being used as it, which isn't indicated, but it was perhaps a form of something that was perhaps more common back then, so maybe it wasn't seen as unfair. That would give A as an extra letter that would fit with so we're not looking at AHS, we're looking at it. A is unindicated, so we do not have a conventional clue and conventional entry here. Is absolutely the answer. In a number of ways, this is a puzzle where we have needed to. So I'm just coming back up here. That would mean we put an A in here. We have needed to properly and correctly pass all of these clues before we're in a position to definitively say this type of clue is conventional, this type of entry is conventional or not. That means that we remove 12 down from the list of conventional clues, which means that the dice net that we end up submitting must also, what's left over after we cut out our dice net must be 108 squares. So Shark says, we'll be so interested to see when the indicators are being used as we progress through the AGC puzzles. Look, I think that's correct. Well, one thing that I think did appear in there were Scottish or some Scottish word indicators in the Sabre puzzle that we just solved. I think this puzzle is, well, no, 22 across we have Poet's Funeral Service. I think that indicated a Spencerian word. But other than that, very few indicators that when we're dealing with words that are not. I know we have Scots have here, and that gave us the HAE for the start of Hermetic. I suspect it might be a situation where, as time goes on, the requirement for indicators will become stricter. And it might be as well that it's the dialectic indicators which are most likely to be left out, because it seems to be those indicators that are. So, Shark, thank you for that. What we have now, and the solving of this puzzle really is a group effort, a team effort. Or in the words of 40 down a something where progress involves shared responsibility. I like that so much. I'm going to highlight that and put that in black. Where are we? All right. So when we obviously need to make a dice, but I think so I'm going to get my dice net up and showing again. But actually, before we do that, let's just check what we actually are doing. In fact, I wonder if, just looking at those clues, I wonder if hearse is in fact, the S in hearse is in fact extra. The reason I wonder that is because within our dice net, the same with Ewan, the S and the E, I think the only two letters where, let's just bear that in mind. We have an S and an E there within the dice net. Actually, there's no reason why they couldn't be. But, sorry, just before I pull that dice net up, let's look at what our extra letters are. So we have J, A, C, T, A, E, S, T, A, L, E, A. So those are the letters ignored by the wordplay of their clues. And they spell out a phrase when read from left to right, top to bottom, which should be translated before entry into the grid. Now, one way of interpreting that is to say, well, we need to do something with these letters before we finalise them. I mean, translate could be translated into a different language, or it could also be translated in the sense of swap them around, move their position. We'll see if we can find an anagram of those in a moment. The other thing I want to do is just check what we've done here, because there's some of the clue numbers that have both a normal clue and a conventional grid entry. So that would be just reading through the list, we have 1 across, we have 18 across, we have 43, 2 down, 5 down, 16 down, 23 down. I think that's it. So that gives us 1, 18, 43, 2, 5, 16 and 23, which comes to 62, 64, 69, 85 plus 23. Yeah, it gives us 108. So that's the number of squares that need to be submitted in the solution. What that means is if we subtract just the dice net from the number of squares in the puzzle, we have 115, which means that there are an additional 7 cells which I think we need to cut out with the dice net to get the number of squares that are submitted as part of the offcut down to 108. So 115 equals 108 plus 7. Having located the material required to make the thematic object in 3D, obviously a dice, solvers should construct it using scissors and glue indicated twice at appropriate places. Solvers must only submit the offcut. Now, obviously, if we need to cut this out and glue it together, we're going to need some tabs to glue, and that is probably where we have the requirement to cut out a little bit more than just the dice net. I had wondered whether, the reference in that instruction to something that is indicated twice at appropriate places. I can see tet here above aga in the second row, and tet in the central row of the grid next to, well, there's actually a clued entry there. That's something I do see appear twice, but I don't think tet has any special meaning beyond being the definition of the clued entry there, and I'm not sure how that indicates cut. But I would think that for every square, how many sides are there on a, this might be a way of working it out. For the dice net to hold together, you would need to glue as many sides as there are which are not already joined by the net, which means that this would need to, let me add another layer here. Let's just count that up. There we go. So this would need to glue with that. So 1. This would need to glue with that. 2. This would need to glue with that. 3. 4. 5. 6. And 7. Is that funny? So we do in fact need 7 just looking at this. Yeah, we do need 7 tabs that we'll need to cut out. And they might not be exactly on these edges. Sorry, in the centre of these edges, but if we cut out these 7 letters, we don't need 1 tab. I'm just indicating duplicates there for the purpose of joining the puzzle. Just show where the edges will go. But that would give us a 7. So we cut out the that will give us the 7 extra letters that we need to cut out in addition to that dice net. Okay, that's interesting to know. Let me just turn that off. Let's come back to this part here. So I like that. I'm happy with that 108 figure, because that's what's left over when you cut out the dice net plus the 7 additional letters. I think that's a pretty good way of reasoning it. Makes sense, doesn't it? I'm not sure if you'd stumbled on that arithmetic. I'm sure you had. So somehow we need to, assuming, and I think we can be fairly confident that these numbers may well, in fact, all be correct. So these letters may well all be correct, or the correct letters which are additional. They spell out a phrase when read from left to right, top to bottom, which should be translated before entry into the grid. Well, I wonder if that itself is something in. It could, for example, be Latin, and it could potentially also be French with the. It doesn't look French, but Jacques. I wonder if that is Latin. Let's just chuck it straight into Chambers. Don't think so. Jactation, the act of boasting. Shark says, no idea, hadn't worked out how to get 7, but that might work. Perhaps a word if picking out one or the other. However, I do have the letters. Will not give anything away, as it's a nice penny drop moment. Oh, wait a second. Have we? Well, what could the letters be then? I just continue on this theme that this might be. I'd better just put this straight into Google, I think. So let's. How do I get my? I'm going to get my browser up here. Where are we? There we go. I can go there. If it can be seen. Maybe I can move it up a bit. So what do we have? Jack. Taestalea. It doesn't look like it's. Wait a second. So I've put in that, and somehow it has popped up via AVIs. The AI overview. Let me zoom in on that. Gives the die has been cast. The die has been cast, meaning the decision has been made and cannot be reversed. Famously uttered by Julius Caesar in 49 BC upon crossing the Rubicon. Um, this is interesting because it has it down as I and J interchangeable in Latin. I think they may well be because Google gives the phrases. All right, let me get rid of that browser. Google gives the phrase thus. Sorry, one moment. Let me. Google gives a phrase like this. I mean, I know word order isn't particularly important in... Word order may not be important in Latin as it is in English. Maybe yeah, I just spoke Latin. Maybe English wasn't his first language. And I think that I and the J may well be interchangeable. Sharp says now look at the first letters of the clues as per the preamble. Can that be given by... Oh, there we go. I hadn't noticed that at all. Why did I... How did I not see that? So, referring to the clues with normal clue and conventional grid entry, the initial letters of these clues spell out a further thematic reference. How did I not know that? So we have R. Here we go. Let me try and collect these. R. Oh, this is exciting. U. B. This is going to give us Rubicon. C. O. I'm just looking at the purple ones. So we are crossing the Rubicon. The die has been cast. Oh, isn't that wonderful? Wait a second. We have a Rubicon here. Oh, that is cool. All right. So the die has been cast, or the die is thrown. I suppose cast has been used in this puzzle quite literally in two senses, isn't it? It's been cast out of the puzzle and it's been thrown as well. Now, in terms of translating this, so we're told that there's been a phrase which should be translated before entry into the grid. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I mean, we can translate it into English, but I don't know how we're meant to translate this. I mean, the other thing that we do need to work out is which are the additional... It says, having located the material required to make the thematic object. Well, we've got the dice net. Let's get our dice net back up. We might jump ahead because trying to work out how we do this second part might help us to work out this additional thing. Just translate the grid as you enter those letters. They spell out a phrase which should be translated before entry into the grid. The dice is cast. Right. The die is cast, of course. I mean, that's it conventionally, right? The die is cast. And that is 12 letters. All right, so let's then enter that this way. So that's it. We'll get rid of all of these letters. Oh, whoops, that's it. A bit too much. J, get rid of that. A, C, T, A, E. Right, let's put this in green, perhaps. So we have the die. Oh, look, and it makes just to confirm that it's correct as well. Oh, this is very neat. It makes real words. Tapers, hitches, a lead, drip, kneecap's the same, peony's the same. The die is cast. The die is cast. Oh, sorry. I swear it was swan. How good's that? Oh, this is gorgeous. What a beautiful puzzle. It is lovely, isn't it? All right, let's turn our dice snap back on because now we... Hey, Liari. Now we've... Actually, I'm going to get rid of... Sorry, just before I do that. I had highlighted these two instances of tet, but I don't think there is actually anything significant about those now. So I think I can get rid of those. Thankfully, I think I just did the highlighting on. No, which layer did I do the highlighting on? That's done on level just a lot layer. Oh, I know what the problem is. Sorry, bear with me for a moment. I need to actually click into that layer. There we go. So we'll get rid of our tet. Get rid of our tet. Okay. So this was the dice net that we have, and we've worked out that in order to cut out the right number of cells from this dice net, we just need to cut out one tab from these various spots. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw. If I do a little dot, this will help us work it out. I think. Yes. So 14 dots there, but we only need to cut out 7. Sixth, it was sixth. And what I'm wondering about is, I mean, this part here indicated twice at appropriate places. That's what we're trying to work out now. So we have sort of looking at each of these letters to try and work out if we can get any indication of which ones of these we're meant to cut out. Well, it can't be a letter here. So with that A is going to match up with this A here. So what that means is that this A is going to have to be cut out with the dice net. That gets rid of and takes care of that one. Because if we didn't cut out this A down here, is that correct? Is that? I think that's right. If we didn't cut out that A, then we wouldn't be cutting out 7. All right. So that gives us a start. We have A to A. Oh, no, this is it. This is how it works. T, this T goes to, what's that? This T goes to this T here, so that's good. So the indicated twice at appropriate places means that the tabs that we're gluing are the letters which would correspond with the letter that they are going to be glued under. So for example, we have N here. That's going to be glued under this N here. This is so clever. We have this G here, which would go to this cell here. Get rid of that dot. This is so clever. L. I like these puzzles which require such a multi-stepped approach to get to the solution. And I mean, this one certainly does, an E here. It really is genius. And the I here. I think that gives us 7 tabs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's going to be our dice net that we need to cut out. What I'm going to do now is print it. So let's turn that off. I will try and send this to myself to print it. Where are we? I don't think I can click send by email. I don't think you guys will see this screen, but if I send that, no, you do. I'll just send that to myself. Let's see if it comes through here. I reckon it would have had to have foxed a few solvers back in 2002. Was it 2003? I'm not sure, whenever it was. There's quite a bit in that end game. It would not have been easy to get to this final point, I think. There's a number of things that have to go, that you have to work out just in order to even get the correct number of cells to cut out and make that connection between, well, we need the dice net plus 7 cells, just so the entire puzzle fits together. It's not an easy solve in that sense, but it is so clever. Alright, I'm just going to go pick that up off the printer, and I have my scissors and sticky tape ready to go. And the other thing that's quite incredible about, I suppose, the progress that we've made with how far the setting community has come is that, I suppose, in 2002, if setters were instructing solvers to cut out dice nets to make dice, I'm just going to get that dice net back up here so I can work out what I'm cutting out. By 2011, as we saw from the paper folding puzzle, setters had progressed to asking solvers to not cut out dice nets to make dice, but cut out entire grids to make tetra flexagons constructed with tetragonal dice phenoids, which of course is something that is totally normal and everyone knows about. Where are we? I think is my screen sharing stopped? I think it has. How do I start that up again? Where are we? There we go. Screen share. Wonderful. Alright, so just wondering if there's a way that I can connect this up, and I don't know if I do have a desk view camera on these things. I might be able to manage it. I'll be able to make it work. Here we go. So, I mean, can I balance that on top of this? Maybe. Just not sure how I'm going to zoom in on it. Get rid of my coffee cup. Alrighty. Sorry it's not a particularly nice view, but let's get this up and going. Here. I think there's a way to get... There you go, that might be better. This is what we need to cut out. Where's our dice net? So we have cutting along here, cutting down there, our N, our G, A, cutting out the E, cutting out the L, none of that, cutting out the A, tell my phone only has 5% battery remaining, leaving the E, cutting out the I. That's it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Alright, let's give this a crack. Quite elementary at the end of it, isn't it? And I wonder how many solvers back then would have read that preamble and thought, oh yep, I know what this is going to be. And then sent letters in to the setters saying, yeah, no, I worked it out from the preamble. It's always one of those. These are crossing the Rubicon. And of course that ties in very neatly with the title of the puzzle, which is No Turning Back. No turning back. The die is cast. go. Snip. I wonder if there's... It would probably be too much to expect from the setter to have any further surprises once we look at the resulting off-cut. And the other thing that's quite spectacular about this grid is, despite the complexity of the instruction, and the complexity of what the solver needs to do, it's all very, very neatly, all the instructions are very, very neatly conveyed in that. So that's the final grid there. Not sure if, how do I rotate that? Not sure how well that can be seen, but I expect it probably doesn't contain any other secrets or messages. But I mean, despite the complexity of what we need to do as a solver, so this one there's a clear logical pathway, a very clear and fair logical pathway to get to that final solution. So to the final grid, I should say. Alright, so if I fold up that dice, the N and G are going to go where they should go. So the N does go under the N and the G does go under the G. There's a beautiful it all comes together in such a nice, neat little way. Darren says, as we've seen over the years, cutting out shapes often wins prizes. Fun and appeals to logical minds, not only of winners of these challenges, but I can recall several runner-ups that include cutting out. So what's that movie where one of the plots is that in order to win an Oscar, you need to make you need to play a character as disabled or something like that, I suppose. The L matches up with the L, E with the E. Is there a comedy where that's one of the subplots or that's one of the storylines? I don't think I've got the creative range to be able to set a puzzle anywhere near as clever as this. And I mean, my setting is much more limited than other people's. I think it could well be the next shark puzzle, though. I mean, Shark's never won anything for his crosswords, has he? I mean, maybe that's why you've never received any awards or plaudits for any of your efforts, Shark. Not enough cutting out. A joke, of course. There we go. Here we go. Alright, we have glued our 7 sides together. I have just finished cutting that one. Well, that could well be the AGC winner for 2035 by the time it gets published. Yeah, we've got our dice, our die. It has now been cast, both in the traditional sense and from the solution grid. No turning back my arc. What a tremendous puzzle. What an absolutely tremendous puzzle. Thanks again, Shark, for your help getting it over the line. Certainly wouldn't have been able to do that I think without that assistance, particularly when it comes to passing those clues, all of which, every single clue in that puzzle needs to be passed to, I think, properly solve it. Where are we? I mean, that's only 1 hour of solving. I'll say only 1 hour of solving. We do potentially have the next puzzle here ready to go, which is, I think, the 2004 AGC winner, which Quoke Hayespo by Elgin. Which won the Ascot Gold Cup for 2004. Does it play? Looks like it may well be play fair. Looking at that part of the grid. What do you reckon? You up for another solve, Shark, or should we leave this one till later? It's outrageous to think that a puzzle with a play fair could have won the AGC. I will set up a new stream. So let me end this stream, and I'll be back in a few moments with a brand new stream, which is just for this puzzle. Just coming back to no turning back by Arc. What a magnificent puzzle this one was. I think a very worthy winner of the AGC for 2003, and yeah, delightful, absolutely delightful. Alrighty, I'll cancel this stream and we'll get started with the next one shortly.